I never imagined I'd be the one quietly holding everything together, the invisible thread weaving this family's fraying edges. People see me as Rosalie Barnes, financial analyst with 15 years honing skills in corporate auditing, numbers whispering their secrets to me. Yet, beyond spreadsheets, I am the silent provider, the one who pays the bills no one else notices. Just last month, I covered $4,500 in overdue mortgage payments, the ones Marilyn forgot or ignored. No fanfare, no thanks. My mother, Marilyn Simpson, rules the family with an iron will wrapped in victimhood. At every gathering, she demands the spotlight, twisting moments to feed her endless need for control and attention. I've learned to wear my silence like armor, navigating her subtle slights and the whispered assumptions that I'm less than I am. Beneath that calm surface, a nagging ache lingers, this feeling of being unseen, underestimated. I own the family home and the local restaurant, though neither Marilyn nor the others suspect it. The deeds and documents rest securely under corporate shells in my name, a secret I guard fiercely. I haven't wielded this power. I believed family unity mattered more than recognition or leverage. Maybe I was naive. Maybe I just want to hope that someday, someone will see me, not as a bank or a shadow, but as a person who sacrifices without complaint. Even now, when Marilyn's sharp gaze sweeps the room, I stand steady, patiently waiting for the day when my quiet strength will break free from the silence. My earliest memories of this family are tinged with a bittersweet ache. At 14, I watched as Mom lavished praise on Lisa, my sister, the golden child who effortlessly commanded attention. Lisa's achievements, a string of perfect grades, trophies, and accolades, were celebrated with a fervor that left me shrinking into the background. I remember a family reunion, the air thick with laughter and small talk, suddenly pierced by Marilyn's sharp voice scolding me in front of everyone. "Rosalie, you're not ambitious enough," she snapped, her words slicing deeper than any insult. Meanwhile, Lisa beamed under the spotlight, basking in her mother's approval. Our parents, complicit or oblivious, turned a blind eye to my efforts, reinforcing Marilyn's favoritism as if it were the natural order of things. I tried to rationalize the coldness, telling myself it was just Mom's way, her version of tough love, and that I had to earn my place in this family. But the wounds remained vivid. I remember the day I emptied my savings to help Lisa with her college tuition, expecting gratitude, or at least acknowledgement. Instead, I was met with indifferent silence from both her and Marilyn, a chill that confirmed my place was always conditional, always secondary. That moment carved a deep fissure in the foundation of our home, one that never quite healed. It set the stage for a lifetime of emotional neglect masked by manipulation and control, a pattern I learned to endure but never to accept fully. Over the years, my sacrifices have piled up like unpaid debts in the shadows. I've poured over $150,000 into the mortgage, utilities, and unexpected family emergencies. Money no one knows came from me. 2 vacations canceled in the past 3 years alone, swallowed up by Lisa's car repairs and Marilyn's medical bills. My husband, Daniel, watches this quiet giving with growing concern. "Rosalie, when do they see you as more than the ATM?" he asked me once, his eyes heavy with worry. But my hope clung stubbornly to the belief that love would eventually be enough, that my efforts would be recognized. In this tangled web, everyone has a role. Marilyn, the oppressive matriarch; Lisa, the entitled sister; Daniel, my steadfast supporter; and Kevin, the brother who walks the tightrope between loyalty and doubt. The truth is, I hold the keys to our family's future. The home and restaurant are legally mine, though everyone assumes Marilyn calls the shots. I have the papers, the proof, but I've never dared break the silence. It was at Lisa's promotion dinner that the first real crack appeared in the facade. The restaurant buzzed with chatter and clinking glasses, but Marilyn's voice cut through the warmth like a jagged knife. "Rosalie, you're too poor to afford this place. Who's footing your bill tonight?" she sneered, loud enough for the entire table to hear. The room froze. Nervous laughter bubbled awkwardly, while others avoided my gaze. My heart slammed against my ribs, a sharp sting of humiliation washing over me. But I forced a smile. telling myself she was just stressed, that it wasn't meant like that. I excused myself early, skipping dessert for the first time ever, the cool restroom tiles grounding me as I caught my breath. Leaving the table felt strangely empowering, a small step toward reclaiming dignity. Yet, beneath it all, I clung to hope that this night was an anomaly, not the rule. Still, a seed of doubt took root. Was I really part of this family, or just a convenient shadow they tolerated? I started noticing the shift long before anyone admitted it aloud. At church, Marilyn's eyes would glance my way, sharp and calculating, as if waiting to catch me out on some imagined fault. Whispers followed me, faint at first, but unmistakable. "Rosalie's just too sensitive," someone murmured. Another voice added, "Ungrateful. She never appreciates what's given." The warmth I once found among distant cousins and neighbors began to cool into icy distance. Kevin, my brother, who used to share quiet laughs and small kindnesses, now barely met my gaze. I overheard Marilyn's voice, soft but venomous, telling him, "Don't get involved with her drama. You know how she blows things out of proportion." It was relentless, her gaslighting sinking into my bones. One night, after a strained phone call with her, Marilyn said, "You're imagining things, Rosalie. You've always been too quick to take offense." The words echoed in my mind like a cruel lullaby. I questioned myself, wondering if I was truly the problem, if my feelings were just an overreaction. But beneath the confusion, a stubborn ember burned. I refused to let her erode my dignity. I reminded myself quietly, this isn't who I am. Yet the isolation clawed at me, a cruel reminder that the family I knew was fracturing around me, with Marilyn at the center, orchestrating the divide. Still, I clung to the hope that conversation might bridge the growing chasm. I proposed a family meeting, envisioning a calm space where I could lay out my feelings clearly, without the usual interruptions or accusations. Sitting around the wooden table in our cousin Janet's living room, I spoke evenly, carefully choosing words that reflected years of overlooked sacrifices. "I'm not asking for praise," I said, voice steady but soft. "Just fairness. Recognition that I've carried burdens quietly." Marilyn's face contorted into a mask of wounded innocence. Tears welled in her eyes as she accused me of coldness and neglect, painting herself as the perpetual victim. "You don't care about me," she cried, the room thick with her theatrical pain. Kevin shifted uncomfortably, and when he spoke, his words betrayed his loyalty to her. "Mom's been through a lot. Maybe you're being too harsh." Lisa sat silent, her hostility like a heavy shadow, her eyes flickering with disdain. Janet, supposed to mediate, barely hid her bias, dismissing my concerns as petty family drama. The meeting dissolved into tension and resentment, ending with Marilyn's cold warning, "Know your place, Rosalie." I left that room hollowed out, the fragile hope of peace shattered, replaced by the stark realization that fairness was a burden others refused to bear. The humiliation hit hardest at that networking event, a place where my reputation was supposed to be unassailable. I'd spent years building trust, proving my competence, but Marilyn shattered that in an instant. Standing near the refreshment table, she launched into a calculated tirade, loud enough for colleagues and clients to hear. "Rosalie wouldn't even be here today if it weren't for me. She's hiding behind the money I covered for her years ago." Her words cut like knives, sharp and public, exposing my financial struggles as if they were dirt to be spread. I felt the room's eyes turn cold. Whispers began, questioning my stability, my integrity. Daniel caught my eye, his expression shifting from support to worry as he saw the flicker of panic beneath my composed surface. Lisa's smirk from across the room stabbed deeper, her deliberate whistle drawing attention to the scene. I was paralyzed, the bitter taste of betrayal flooding my mouth. This wasn't just family squabbling anymore. It was a calculated attack aimed at dismantling my professional credibility, my social standing. Marilyn's venom reached far beyond our private lives, and I realized with a sinking heart that her campaign to destroy me was ruthless and unrelenting, stretching into every corner where I sought respect and security. Despite the sting of public humiliation, I tried once more, this time offering help for Marilyn's new health concerns, hoping to find common ground. "Mom, I want to support you," I said, my voice steady but edged with vulnerability. "But I need something too. I need respect, honesty." For a brief flicker, her gaze softened, a glimpse of the mother I once believed in. I reached out, prepared to mend the fractured bond, to rebuild what had been torn. But the moment shattered when she recoiled, her expression hardening into cold disdain. "Stop playing the victim, Rosalie," she spat. The cruelty hit harder than any argument. Then came the final blow. During a legal dispute over the family home, Marilyn publicly denied even owning it, trying to evict me from the house I'd kept afloat for years. The betrayal was staggering. After all I'd done, all I'd sacrificed, she erased me like I was nothing. Standing there, stunned, I whispered to myself, I did everything I could. But the truth settled heavy in my chest. Sometimes love and effort aren't enough when faced with such ruthless rejection. The silence in the house became a suffocating weight. After Marilyn's eviction attempt, I was no longer just the background noise in family drama. I was the target, the outcast. My own siblings, who once shared moments of laughter and tentative support, now turned away, their eyes darting like they feared catching the contagion of my problem. Even Kevin, my brother who had always walked the fine line between loyalty and doubt, started distancing himself, caught in the crossfire of Mom's relentless manipulations. The phone calls dwindled until Daniel's voice was the only steady current pulling me back from drowning. "Rosalie, you're not alone," he said softly, but even his words couldn't fully dispel the hollowness spreading inside me. The house that I had kept afloat, through every mortgage payment, every repair, every unexpected expense, felt colder now. Walls that once echoed with whispered secrets and family laughter seemed alien, as if I was a stranger in my own home. At night, I'd lie awake, the ceiling staring back at me, cold and indifferent. I caught myself wondering, maybe I really am the problem. The gnawing doubt was relentless, undermining years of quiet strength. Was my patience too much? Was my kindness weakness? Did everyone else see what I couldn't? A Rosalie too sensitive, too naive to belong here? It was a terrifying thought, that my sacrifices, my efforts, my very existence within this family were a mistake. One afternoon, alone in the living room, I stared at the faded family photos on the mantel. Faces I loved, smiles I remembered, but all now seemed to mock me silently. I felt the sting of abandonment sharper than any word spoken aloud. Tears pricked the back of my throat. Not the dramatic sobs of a betrayed woman, but the quiet, raw ache of isolation. I thought about giving up, walking away from the house, the family, the endless battle for recognition. Yet beneath the fatigue, a stubborn ember refused to die. Somewhere deep inside, a whisper called out, not for peace, but for justice. "You've done enough. Now, it's time for them to see you." The next family meeting was billed as a chance for reconciliation, a neutral ground to untangle the mess. But the moment Marilyn pushed a thick, leather-bound folder across the table, the air shifted, heavy and unforgiving. "I've got something to show you all," she announced, eyes blazing with a triumph that chilled me. Inside were documents, official-looking deeds, contracts, declaring the house and restaurant as hers alone, forged to perfection. The shock was a physical blow. Lisa's mouth dropped open, Kevin's face paled, and even Janet, the mediator, blinked in disbelief. Marilyn's lawyer, cold and precise, leaned in to spell out the consequences. Eviction, financial ruin, legal cutoffs. "You have no claim here, Rosalie," the lawyer said flatly. "It's all her property." For a heartbeat, I sat frozen, my mind numb. Then, beneath the shock, something inside me cracked, not in despair, but in sharp, icy clarity. All those years I'd been a ghost in my own home, invisible, dismissed, used. The weight of betrayal settled like a stone in my chest, but the fear dissolved, replaced by a cold, hard resolve. I looked at Marilyn, really looked at her for the first time in ages, and saw not a mother, but a merciless usurper. The quiet Rosalie that everyone thought they knew shattered silently. Hope, That fragile, flickering thing died that day. But from its ashes, a new me began to rise. One who would no longer be silent, unseen, or powerless. Later, locked in my study, I pored over years of financial records, bank statements, receipts, invoices, each paper a testament to my unseen labor. The numbers told a story starkly different from Marilyn's lies. I saw the thread of manipulation woven through every transaction, every gift masked as charity, every debt unpaid by anyone but me. The pain was a raw, burning thing, but beneath it simmered a growing anger. This wasn't just a moment of betrayal. It was a lifetime of calculated control. The realization hit me like a thunderclap. This has always been this way. The pattern was clear. The emotional neglect, the public shaming, the gaslighting, Marilyn's mastery at erasing me from the narrative of our family. But this time, the grief gave way to something fiercer. I refused to be a victim anymore. The years of invisibility hardened into steel resolve. "Never again," I whispered, voice steady despite the tears. I remembered the secret I had guarded so fiercely. Legal ownership of the home and the restaurant, buried beneath layers of corporate filings and trusts. Those documents were more than paper. They were my weapon. Now, I embraced that power fully, no longer afraid or hesitant. The pain had awakened me, and with it came a promise. I would reclaim my place, not as a shadow, but as the rightful owner of my life and family legacy. That evening, Daniel and I sat across from each other at our small kitchen table. The soft glow of the lamp cast shadows, but in his eyes, I found the strength I desperately needed. "I'm going to expose everything," I said quietly, feeling the weight of the decision settle over me. The financial audit, the forged documents, Marilyn's deceit. Daniel nodded, reaching across to squeeze my hand. "You're not alone in this, Rosalie. We'll face it together." His steady presence grounded me, reminding me that I didn't have to carry this burden in silence. I laid out the first steps, systematically gathering every piece of evidence, organizing the paperwork to build an unassailable case. This wasn't about revenge yet. It was about reclaiming truth and justice. Marilyn was the target, the architect of this chaos, and I would confront her, but carefully, discreetly. The stakes were high. I felt the familiar rush of adrenaline, the sharp clarity that comes with purpose. This was no longer about surviving. It was about fighting back, silently but fiercely. As we spoke late into the night, the kitchen filled with quiet determination, and for the first time in months, hope flickered, steady and strong, within me. I spread out the files across my study table, each paper a thread in the tangled web I was unraveling. Marilyn depended on me for her mortgage payments, a fact that stung more than I expected. Every month, I covered the bills for the house she claimed as her own, while she wielded entitlement like a weapon. Lisa, my sister, drained my accounts with constant emergencies and lavish requests, always claiming I was the generous one. And Kevin, my brother, relied on the emotional stability I struggled to maintain, leaning on me in ways no one else seemed to notice or appreciate. The weight of their dependencies pressed down on me, but for the first time, I cataloged it all, not as a victim, but as a strategist. Taking a deep breath, I called my trusted accountant, Martha, to cross-check the family finances. Her voice, calm, methodical, was a balm against the chaos swirling in my mind. "Rosalie, I'm seeing multiple unauthorized withdrawals linked to Marilyn's accounts," she said quietly. "These transfers aren't documented anywhere. They total over $200,000 over the past 5 years." My chest tightened. Proof. Cold, undeniable proof of her exploitation wrapped in layers of deception. I started pulling together emails, signed contracts, and bank statements. Every transaction, every request, every excuse was logged. I whispered to myself, "They need me more than I need them." That realization settled heavily, but firmly. I wasn't just the family's provider. I was their lifeline, and that gave me power I hadn't dared claim before. The quiet of the night wrapped around me as I compiled the evidence, each piece a silent accusation. I felt the familiar ache of betrayal, but it was now laced with clarity. The family's financial dependence was a chain, and I held the key. My hands trembled slightly as I placed one final document in the folder, sealing it like a coffin for the lies. I stared at the neat piles, thinking about the years wasted covering debts and smoothing over their dysfunction. I could no longer pretend ignorance. The path ahead was murky, but the first step was clear. I had to own the truth and use it carefully. The storm was coming, and I was gathering strength for the fight. Yet, alongside the growing resolve, a quiet fear lingered, the fear of shattering the facade of normalcy that protected me. If I exposed everything at once, the family might collapse entirely, and I wasn't sure I was ready for that kind of fallout. So, I whispered a silent vow: patience, precision, control. I would document everything, but I'd move slowly, calculating each step with the cold logic I'd honed over years as a financial analyst. It was time to turn their dependence into my leverage. For the first time, I felt the weight of power settle comfortably in my hands. With a deliberate calm, I set to work updating passwords and legal documents, a subtle but significant reclamation of control. I changed all the financial account passwords, including the ones linked to the family restaurant's management systems, a delicate operation that required careful timing and discretion. Each new password was a quiet act of defiance, a lock on their access that went unnoticed but felt like a small victory. I consulted with my lawyer, Claire, who laid out the protective measures I could take to shield myself legally. "You're taking the right steps," she assured me, her voice steady and professional. "But keep your guard up. This isn't just about money. It's about manipulation and control." At family gatherings, I maintained a calm facade, a mask so practiced it fooled everyone, including myself at times. Marilyn smiled thinly, unaware that beneath my composed exterior, I was sowing seeds of change. Lisa chatted about trivial things, oblivious to the silent barricade I was building. Kevin's eyes searched mine for a flicker of the old warmth, but I gave only measured nods. The tension was a quiet hum beneath the surface, like the stillness before a storm breaks. No one suspected that I was quietly rewriting the rules of engagement. The house felt charged. Every glance and word weighted with unspoken truths. I reminded myself to breathe, to keep steady. The calm before the storm was the crucible where my resolve was forged. One afternoon, as I sifted through a box of old family files, a soft knock startled me. Evelyn Harper, a distant cousin I barely knew, stood hesitantly at the door. Her eyes were cautious but kind as she stepped inside. "I thought you might want to see this," she said, handing over a faded folder. Inside, I found records, letters, and photographs, revealing Marilyn's long history of financial manipulation, decades of draining relatives before she ever set her sights on me. Evelyn's voice trembled as she recounted a story of another sibling, estranged and broken by Marilyn's deceit years ago. "She's been doing this for as long as anyone can remember," Evelyn said softly. "You're not alone." The shock hit me like a wave, cold and relentless. The pattern of exploitation wasn't new, just hidden beneath layers of denial and family loyalty. A bitter clarity took root. Marilyn wasn't just a toxic mother. She was a serial manipulator, a poison woven through generations. The pain of betrayal deepened, but so did my resolve. "This changes everything," I murmured, clutching the folder tightly. The discovery was a brutal confirmation that my fight wasn't just personal. It was a reckoning with a legacy of control and abuse that had been ignored for too long. The weight of that truth galvanized me, fueling a fire I hadn't known I possessed. I sat back, letting the reality sink in. Marilyn's web was wider, more vicious than I'd imagined. The family's suffering wasn't isolated. It was systemic. My isolation, my pain, the years of silent labor, they were part of a much larger story. Yet, in this revelation, I found strength. I was no longer just a victim. I was the one who could break the cycle. My hands shook slightly, not from fear, but from the power of possibility. "It's time to hold her accountable," I whispered into the quiet room, feeling the weight of my decision settle like steel. The past was shattered, and with it, the path forward began to take shape. The first moves were deliberate and unyielding. I stopped the mortgage payments Marilyn relied on, watching as her calm facade faltered without warning. Vendors called, confused and frustrated by the sudden changes in billing and access. I locked down the restaurant's finances, revoking shared permissions and setting new protocols that left Marilyn and Lisa scrambling. Each action was a calculated cut in the lifelines they had taken for granted, but I remained composed, calm, controlled, unshaken. When Marilyn asked Daniel about the sudden restrictions, he deflected with practiced neutrality, echoing my lawyer's advice to limit direct contact. I watched from a distance as Marilyn's confident mask cracked, her usual smarmy replies replaced by harried phone calls and frantic texts. Lisa's irritation was palpable, her casual disdain replaced with sharp questions and veiled threats. "What's going on with the accounts?" she demanded during a rare family dinner, her voice edged with frustration. I met her gaze steadily, saying nothing, letting the silence speak. Kevin looked between us, confusion flickering in his eyes, but I kept my expression neutral, unwilling to draw him deeper into the conflict. The tension was electric, a quiet battle unfolding beneath polite smiles. Vendors began pressing Marilyn for overdue payments, their calls piling up in her voicemail. Her social standing wavered as whispers of financial trouble spread. I listened to it all in silence, the satisfaction of justice tempered by the storm I knew was yet to come. Daniel caught my eye across the room one evening, a flicker of pride shining in his steady gaze. "You're different now," he whispered after Marilyn stormed out in a huff. "You've become the strategist I always knew you could be." The words warmed me, a quiet reminder that I wasn't alone in this fight. I nodded, feeling the weight of transformation settling deep within me. No longer the silent provider, no longer the overlooked daughter. I was becoming the architect of my own destiny. The first moves had been made, and though the path ahead was uncertain, beneath the calm surface, a fierce storm was gathering strength. I was ready. The day of the family gathering arrived with an eerie calm. The room was dressed in its usual finery, but beneath the polite smiles and clinking glasses, I could feel the taut strings of tension vibrating in the air. Marilyn was radiant as ever, her eyes gleaming with the unchallenged authority she always wielded over the room. But I was ready. Steeling myself, I stepped forward, clutching the thick binder of financial audits and legal paperwork that had become my shield and sword. "My family," I began, my voice steady despite the storm building inside me. "I have something important to share." The murmur quieted, eyes turning toward me with curiosity, and, I sensed, apprehension. I laid the documents on the polished table, sliding them slowly across until they stopped directly in front of Marilyn. "For 7 years, I have paid the mortgage, the taxes, the bills for this home, and the restaurant. Every expense has been covered by me." I met Marilyn's gaze, unblinking. Her mouth opened, then closed, speechless. The room held its breath as I flipped through pages, bank statements, invoices, signed receipts, proof that was impossible to deny. Kevin's face paled, and even Lisa looked unsettled, their eyes flicking between Marilyn and me. "I'm done being invisible," I said, voice rising just enough to punctuate the moment. "This ends now." The words hung heavy, a finality that silenced the room. Marilyn's carefully constructed mask cracked, the facade crumbling beneath the weight of truth. I could see the flicker of panic, the unspoken calculation of damage control, but it was too late. I laid down my terms with quiet authority. She was no longer in control, and she must respect the boundaries I was setting. The power had shifted, and I was no longer the ghost in the background, but the woman who held the reins. The days that followed were like watching a slow-motion collapse. Marilyn's veneer of control shattered, revealing desperation beneath. Vendors she once charmed now refused to work without my approval. Calls poured in from suppliers demanding payment or clarification, and Marilyn's usual confidence withered visibly. I began receiving frantic texts, pleas for reconciliation, promises to repay every cent, desperate attempts to spin the narrative back in her favor. But I held firm, each message ignored, each call unanswered. I wasn't about to be baited into old patterns of guilt and control. Family members started to murmur privately, questioning Marilyn's stories as pieces of evidence surfaced. Even Kevin, who had long been caught in Marilyn's web of manipulation, began to see the cracks. I felt a quiet satisfaction, not gloating, but a deep, restoring pride. The fragile illusion Marilyn had maintained for decades was dissolving, piece by piece, and I was the one wielding the hammer. The silence I had once endured was replaced by a new kind of respect, though unspoken and tentative. I could feel the weight of years lifting off my shoulders, replaced by a steady sense of ownership, not just of the house or the restaurant, but of my own life. But Marilyn was not done. She shifted tactics, turning up the heat with every desperate ploy she had in her arsenal. Threats of legal action, public victimhood posts on social media, guilt trips sent to Kevin and others in the family, attempting to stir drama and rally sympathizers. The flying monkeys she unleashed were relentless, but I was prepared. Calmly, I blocked their calls and messages, refusing to engage with the chaos. Some family members, including Kevin, reached out quietly to apologize for not seeing the truth sooner. Their words were tentative, but I accepted them with grace, recognizing the painful process they were going through. Meanwhile, Marilyn's isolation grew palpable. The confidence that once radiated from her seemed to evaporate with every failed manipulation. Her world shrank until it was just her and the lies she could no longer sustain. I watched all of this unfold with an unshaken heart, anchored by the certainty of documented truth and the boundaries I had drawn. The woman who had once controlled everything was now a figure shrinking from the light she so desperately tried to hide from. 6 months later, the air around me felt lighter, freer. My life had reshaped itself into a peaceful, autonomous existence that I barely dared to dream of before. Daniel and I shared a home filled with warmth, laughter, and boundaries that protected us both. Contact with Marilyn was minimal and strictly controlled. Lisa and Kevin had settled into new roles, respectful of the limits I had imposed. Family gatherings were smaller, quieter, but healthier, a steady rhythm without the chaos of old. Marilyn faced the consequences of her choices, estrangement and financial loss, but I bore no bitterness. Instead, there was calm empowerment, a quiet victory that came from knowing my worth and claiming it without apology. Sometimes, as I sit by the window watching the sunset, I reflect on the journey. Peace isn't about seeking others' approval or forgiveness. It's about standing firmly in who you are, unshaken by the storms of the past. The future is mine to shape, and this time, the choice is clear. I am no longer invisible. I am seen, I am respected, and I am free.